Now in this tutorial, I'm going to take you through the basics of assembling and disassembling your quadline kite, as well as giving you a basic introduction to the anatomy of the kite so you can identify parts and the like. So of course, I've already taken the kite out of the sleeve. What I'm going to do is unroll it, kind of utilizing the wind direction to keep that sail nice and clean, as opposed to trying to battle the kite up in front of me or having it flop around. So once more, kind of holding it like a flag. I've unrolled it. What I've got here is the two vertical rods, and then I'm going to go ahead and take the nearest wing and unfold it. And what I do is I place the still folded end on the ground slightly upwind so that the wind slices past it and it's not blowing it out behind me. Then what I'll do is locate the space between the two ends of rod inside the leading edge of the kite. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to feel this, much like putting a tent together or something similar. I'm going to hold the end of the rod here. We're going to push it into the sleeve, just like we were setting up at camp. And then what I'm doing is I'm feeling here to make sure the two ends of rods make contact, and then one of them slips inside the other one. We call that a ferrule or a joint, which connects the leading edge rods. And then when I've connected that or slipped it in, I want to make sure that it is fully seated inside the other rod. If it's not all the way inside, it doesn't get supported thoroughly enough and can sometimes crack or break the rod. So now that I've connected that leading edge ferrule, I go ahead and reach up here to the bridle and the wingtip end cap. I'm going to go ahead and pull that end cap up over the tip there, making sure that this bridle, the harness connection, is not unduly twisted around the cap or underneath the bungee, anything like that. Now once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and take one of my vertical rods, and I like to put the label end of the rod at the top, just as a matter of ritual when I put my kites together. So once more, the end of the rod, I'm going to go ahead and put that into the T-fitting here at the leading edge rod. And then what I'll do is reach down here to the bottom wingtip of the kite. Same as we did on the other wingtip, we grab the bridle to make sure it's free. We pull the end cap over the bottom, and this rod indeed is outside of the bungee cover. So now we have one wing assembled, and what I'm going to go ahead and do now is roll the kite over so that the other wing is now pointed upwind. You can see that the wind is actually pressing down on the kite slightly and keeping it in place for me. Then what I'll do is repeat what I did on the other wing, managing the end rod right here, finding the gap between the two ends of rod and the ferrule, sliding the ferrule all the way in, making sure I have a proper connect. Take the wingtip end cap by the bridle, making sure again there's no twist. Any time that bridle gets wrapped around an end cap or underneath a bungee, it can actually change the length of that bridle, which does affect the tuning and performance of the kite. So now for my final wing, I'm going to take that vertical rod with the label end up into the T-fitting here. And then I'm going to go ahead and slide that right into the bottom wingtip cap right there. And we have a fully assembled quadline kite. So once more, what we just went through was we have the leading edge. I tend to call this the V-point and the belly. We have the vertical rods or the upright rods. Every kite of this design has 5 rods, so there's a center rod and outer rods. Now the ferrule or the joint that's glued into those rods, like on the Djuice, the ferrules are actually glued on the outside wingtips. So if you break one of these, you'll need to glue a ferrule in there. On the Djinn and a lot of other quadline kites, those ferrules are on the center rod this way because they just simply tend to break the least. Now as far as crashes and such, in the long run, most likely, if you have a crash impact, you're going to break something in the leading edge. If you're flying the kite simply above its wind range and it exceeds its ability to hold that pressure, then in most cases, you're going to blow a vertical rod. As far as the other anatomy of the kite, of course, we have the bridle. This is our harness. The top point connection is usually up around here somewhere. The bottom point connection there. I generally refer to the top of the bridle as the upper deck or the top deck, and the lower being the bottom deck. So the other things to be aware of is our wear strips. This is the strip that goes behind the vertical rod, and leading edge mesh or ventilation of various kinds, which just an aerodynamic design feature. And then of course we have all of the wing tips. So that is the basic introduction to assembling a quadline kite. Let's go ahead and look at putting it away. All right, now to disassemble the kite, we're going to kind of reverse some of what we did earlier. What I'm going to do is go ahead and put one wingtip down in front of me on the upwind side. That again just helps me keep it in control on the ground. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect one of the wingtips here. I'm exposing the end rod here a little bit, and then I go ahead and push this T-fitting slightly away from the wingtip, and then I can reach down here and grab the center rod inside the leading edge, pull it out, and then I want to make sure that I have at least this sort of gap here between the two ends of rods. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold that over just like that. We'll set that down. Take the other wingtip, once more controlling the end of this rod, pushing that T-fitting in slightly, holding the center rod and separating those two spars, and once more making sure that I have a pretty good gap between these two ends of rods inside the leading edge. And the main reason is that when you fold it, if you don't have a big enough gap there, it can put undue pressure and torque on that leading edge material and actually punch through or shorten the life of that. So now that we've got the kite folded, I generally refer to this as a bifold. If I'm only putting away a kite for a short period of time or putting it in the car, honestly, this is a pretty good way for me to roll. I usually have one set up like this in my car throughout the year. But let's say we're going to go ahead and roll it up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the vertical rod and I'm going to pull it right out of that T-fitting there. Then I'm going to give a little twist and wiggle. It drops out of that bottom tip. And then we repeat the same with this other spar that's under here. Taking that out of the T-fitting, a little shake. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two rods and I'm going to roll them in so that the exposed bridle and all of this extra stuff here gets rolled inside the kite. For contrast, there's the other side. You can see it's fairly smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and roll that up. There's a couple of ways we can do this. One is I can keep it here in front of my body to keep it kind of straight. I could also potentially try to hold it like a flag. You can also hold it like this. But the key for me is that when I roll it, I don't want to roll it too tight because, of course, I'm just compressing everything. Everything that's folded is getting rolled tighter and increasing the long-term wear on the sail. So I've got a moderately loose roll. I'm smoothing these out so that I don't end up with an unnecessary amount of wrinkles in the kite. I'm rolling all the way up to those bottom points. And then for the sleeve, what I would do is insert and rotate in the direction of the roll, just so that it goes in nice and smooth. So that's the basic disassembly of a quad line kite. I will cover maintenance and upkeep in another tutorial, but for the final, I'm going to go ahead and show you how we do it with it laying just flat on the ground. I'm not a big fan of bending over and doing that, so that's why I showed you the main method, but I'll go ahead and give you a quick clip of how we do it laying flat on the ground. Until the next one, have fun, be smart.